Welcome everybody to a new episode from the show Future Generation. Today I have a very interesting topic, but before we're gonna on with the topic, I just want to welcome you, the people who had started the schools today or had started on the other side. Just good luck, and I wish you the best in this year. I wish you the best for proceeding this year, inshallah, and getting the high scores. So today we're gonna talk about the motorcycles. So as you know, the first motorcycle was made from as a French man who made it with the steam, to work with the steam in the 1868. He was and after it with a year, an American called Roger, he had made it in 1869 in order to improve with also steam but with improved way. And then after it in 1885, a new German man made it with a petroleum. And then afterward, they tried to improve it in order to make it with motorcycle. So, before going on with our topic, more than that, I just want to welcome Michael Hussam. How are you doing tonight?
Fine, thanks. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Like Marwan said, of course, we're going to talk about motorcycles, and as you have heard already, he has talked briefly on the history of motorcycles, which is great. Thanks for letting us know about that.
You're welcome.
To reach us, the numbers will gonna pop out later. You can reach us at 009-66-144-28900. Before we get into the topic, and we have lovely guests, but before we introduce them, I would like to introduce my last colleague, Salman. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, I'm fine. It's good to be back. And as you said, the show is about the motorcycle experience. So we'll have a look about that. We'll have a look-see on what it's all based on. And so I'd like to move on to our guests. We have the director of Harley-Davidson with us, Mr. Marwan Kanana, and his assistant, Mr. Waleed AlDhubaib. Sorry, my bad. Please introduce yourselves. A little bit about yourselves.
Well, thank you for having me on the show, guys. I'm Marwan Kanana. I am the director for Riyadh, Hog Riyadh chapter. And Mr. Waleed is my great assistant, actually. And I'll let him introduce himself.
Okay, thank you for inviting us. Of course, my name is Waleed AlDhubaib. I am the assistant director for Hog Riyadh. We work together, me, Marwan, and the whole team in Riyadh Hog, to make everything, or let's say, to support the riding activity.
We're pleasure to have you, of course. And you were saying, sorry?
Yeah, well, the first thing is, I look at you guys and I see these amazing jackets on. So just so our viewers know, even though this is basically, I think, only Harley confined, but what exactly is the basis of the jacket and, mashallah, the many badges?
Okay, go ahead.
Well, the vests, usually, all the pins on them would represent every event you've attended, or every, if you did go to an event and you had one of your Hog brothers there and by the way, Hog stands for Harley Owners Group, just so people understand what Hog stands for.
Well, that's a good clarification.
So each one of these pins actually talks about where did you go, what did you attend, and basically that's what it's all about. So the more pins you have, the more years you've established there.
That's lovely. So, Marwan.
So yeah, I want also to ask about the license procedure for the bike, or motorcycle. How can I get it? The steps.
For Harley-Davidson specifically, we have standards that we make sure that it's followed. First of all, when you do want to go buy a bike, even if you don't know how to ride, the dealership will train you. They will assist you while you go to get, after you're trained, to go get your driver's license for motorcycles, and they will assist you in getting the registration and plate numbers for the bike. But the bike will not leave the showroom without you having full paperwork and licenses.
So basically, you're doing your side on keeping the streets safe from amateurs or people who want to go crazy.
And legitimizing someone so he can go out on the street.
Yeah. That sounds great, actually. I would want to talk to you about how do you how do you choose a bike? You know, when a person comes in first to the store, he finds all these amazing bikes around him, but what is the right bike for him? How do a person chooses that?
Go ahead.
Okay. Actually, the bike will choose you.
That's
This is what they
Kind of
say.
philosophical, don't you think?
It's true.
Okay, when you get into the showroom, you'll see many bikes. Of course, there's category of bikes. There is touring bike, there's riding bike, small, medium, and large. There's trikes.
Right.
But there is one bike that from the first time you see it, you think this bike is calling you. So usually it's like this. Some people, they spend 6 months to choose a bike. And some of them, they buy a bike and then they sell it and they buy another one. But you have to go to choose one that meets your requirements, your needs. If you want to go on long rides or short rides, it depends. And there is something in between. So this is what you do usually. So the bike will choose you according to your needs.
Talking about going on rides and, of course, choosing a bike, it came to my attention that you have a Harley members group, a Hog members group, I mean, the owner group, as you said. So members over there, I mean, of course, each of them have their own respective kind of bike. You know, someone have maybe a Sportster, maybe a CVO, maybe an Iron, so on and so forth. I don't really know all the types of bikes, but, you know, I'm a little intuitive. So I want to know about basically the facilities that they have and the activities that they do. I mean, Harley itself, I mean, as a biking company, industry, or association is what you may call, over here, what kind of benefits do your members have? What kind of activities do you indulge in?
Okay. Actually, we do many rides. We have a weekly ride, then we have sometimes we participate in an event like the last one, the official participation that we participate in is in Qatar. We was in Abha ride just before Ramadan, and next week we are going to Al-Majma'a for the رعاية شؤون رعاية شاملة للمجمعة to support the handicap over there. We're going to ride for 180 kilos after Asr to support them, and it's part of the social activity that we have to do in the society.
Basically a networking.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So,
Sorry.
You go ahead.
I just want to I'd like to ask you, what about the bike endurance? Do you give them
Bike, sorry?
the endurance for the bike?
Endurance?
Yeah.
Well, they're pretty tough bikes. I mean, our chapter, Riyadh, in 2006 actually traveled from Riyadh all the way to Ireland.
Wow.
And that's an endurance
Agreed.
right there.
Does actually sound like the trip
A
of
lot
a
of
lifetime.
kilometers.
It is.
Yeah.
It was about
It's way fast, yeah.
23 days or
Wow.
almost like that. They passed by
Amazing.
33 cities.
Yeah, we'll
I'm
get back to that.
I'm sorry to break your talking. Now we have a report, so
Yeah.
stay tuned and don't go anywhere.
Get out on the highway, looking for adventure, and whatever comes my way. Yeah, I'm gonna make it happen. Take the world in a love embrace. Fly all your guns at once and explode into space. Let's move the lightning. Every metal thunder.
Good evening, dear viewers. We are here in Harley-Davidson expedition in Riyadh with Mr. Marwan Kenan. Mr. Marwan Kenan, can you tell us about your role in this establishment?
Thank you for having me. I am the director for the Riyadh Harley Owners Group. And this is part of the owners of the bikes. They have a club here, and we have officers, and we have a director, and we have organization that basically organizes all the events and the charities and the fun things that people would go through.
And talking about bikes, usually there are many viewers out there who don't know much about motorcycles or their components. So over here, Mr. Marwan will scan us through what there is.
Well, in simple, it's you've got the front brakes in here, you've got the engine in here, and that's what differentiate Harley-Davidson from other bikes. It's the V engine, and you've got the carburetor. Well, it's not a carburetor; it's an injection. The pipes, and on the other side here is the gearbox and the gear switch that's actually controlled by the legs. Of course, this is the gas tank. That's the throttle. That's the front brakes, and you've got the clutch on the other side.
Thank you for showing those viewers who don't know much about bikes the components of a motorcycle. On the other hand, we talk about accessories of a motorcycle or the safety precautions, whatever there is around. So, on safety precautions, what would you have to say are good safety precautions for?
Well, we, the Harley owners groups, and especially the officers, we emphasize a lot the use of full gear, specifically the helmets and gloves. After God, those protect you when you fall. It protects the main thing, which is your head. And of course, our types of Harleys here mostly are touring, so most of the time it's actually a cruising trip. It's not a speeding trip or anything like that.
Well, talking about types of bikes, could you tell us about the different types of motorcycles? Or
Mainly you've got three types. One is the touring, which is the biggest types as you see around, and one is the speed bikes, which is some of the Harleys like the Veras, the Muscles, and then you've got the off-road, and these are not Harleys. These are like some of the Yamahas, the BMWs, the Suzukis and stuff.
Thank you so much.
Welcome back. This was the lovely report in Harley-Davidson by they showed us the bike. We would like to thank Mansour and Hussam and Salman for doing this report. And actually in this report they showed us how Mr. Marwan showed us how the bike is divided and what parts of the bike like that. And I really want to thank you for this amazing report. I wish you have made it.
Yeah. So, by the way, we were talking about events before the show. Before the report, sorry, we're talking about the events, and I wanted to ask you a question. What exactly do you do to keep these events in a safe boundary, just to limit the number of problems there? What do you do exactly, Mr. Waleed?
Okay, we have road captains and a sweeper usually in each ride, and usually we prefer to have the group with between 7 and 10 riders, and there is a communication between us, assigned communication, where we communicate. There is also in the road we line up in formations, so there is different formation just for our own safety. Also there is the outfit that we wear as elbow protection, knees protection, back protection, and a dotted helmet, which is a approved helmet that supported by regulation, that it will protect if anyone will la samah Allah falls or something like this. Also we prefer that everyone wears a jacket, long sleeve, because usually when you fall your hand will be scratched. Also the gloves, that you have to wear a protective gloves, because usually the first part of when you fall is your hand. So all those inshallah will keep you safe.
Including, adding to your point, where you go for an event and you make sure mishaps don't happen. Usually what's seen is, what I saw personally as well, is that there's a certain formation that riders usually have. What's the theory behind that formation exactly?
Okay, the single formation and there is the stagger formation. The single formation usually when we take a turn or when it's a crowded place that we cannot move, we cannot take our lines in stagger formation. Stagger usually in the highway it's better when we go in the middle, but we are moving to another highway or taking an exit, taking a roundabout, we go to a single formation.
I see.
So you're just making it safe for everyone in order to protect or something.
Yeah, and you want to say something?
Yeah, no, there's a story behind why we do formations.
Can you enlighten us?
And
with it?
well, it's in short, basically in the past, people could not afford cars, so they used to ride bikes, and they used to have accidents because they're vulnerable. And it was decided at the time, and I'm talking in the Middle Ages, that they gather together and ride in formations, and that way they could be visible and they could be more protected as far as cars and vehicles around them. And that's where it started from. And then Harley-Davidson went, as my brother here told us, we do a staggered formation, we do a single formation, and we can do parade formation, which is for special occasions. And but mainly it's to make you visible, so the bike will not be alone in the middle of the street.
So you're
between
keeping each other safe.
It's a
working in group.
safety
Yeah.
precaution. Yes.
Yeah, that is
Now
pretty
that we've
great to know.
talked about formation, safety, the types of bikes and everything, coming to customizations, I mean, usually I've seen myself, a guy was riding a motorcycle and he had headphones on. So, of course, you could see that you could customize a bike to that extent. I mean, that wasn't in my knowledge. I couldn't perceive that happen. So what kind of customizations can you do?
Well, the Harley-Davidson touring bikes already come with the function of having a radio, basically. So the road captain will be able to talk to what we call the sweeper in the back. The sweeper in the back can inform him if somebody fell behind because of anything, if they stopped. So there's always a communication radio-wise between them. Also, most of the helmets have Bluetooth capability, and they could connect to your phone, they can connect to your iPod, they can...
It's over and make it safe.
The safety portion of it is the CB, where they talk to each other. He tells them, I need to turn, or, you know, so the sweeper, basically the road captain decides to turn. The sweeper is the one that blocks the road, makes sure no cars are coming, and that's when the road captain decides to come out and the group follows. That's just in simple.
So it's a tight and organized group.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that is very great for you guys to do it, and hopefully a lot more people are not only like Harley-Davidson part, just normal stores do that in the future.
Absolutely.
Inshallah.
And since we also have to cover the positive and negative aspects of owning a motorcycle or riding one, we'd like to know, you two personally own bikes, and of course you have different events and stuff. As bike owners, as you've rode bikes as well, what are the positive, well, let's start with positive. What are the positive things you like about a motorcycle? I mean, is it the way it makes you feel or anything?
Absolutely. There's a saying that I've read when I first bought my bike, and somebody was explaining that you can never understand until you ride. And in simple, he said that your feet are a few inches above the ground, the wind is in your face. I guarantee you a smile the first 100 meters you're riding.
Yeah,
What
it's
about
So
you?
it's just a feeling,
of the wind.
you're flying, basically.
Yeah, what about your
I
perspective?
have 11,000 kilos and still the smile is on my face.
That's great. So, negative side, is there anything?
Negative side, you're on two wheels.
Excuse me.
And that's the only thing that we keep reminding people on, that you're not in a car, you're on two wheels. If you fall, you fall. So you need to be always careful, you need to be vigilant, you need to be focused, you need to make sure you can predict the cars, you don't challenge the cars.
Don't go crazy.
I
Don't go
believe-
too adventurous. Just having that
Can
moment
you
into
You need to
yourself.
be seen also.
Yeah.
Okay, can you
It's
just
your
tell us the-
responsibility to stay in a place where other cars will see you as well.
So
Mr. Mark,
be
can you
careful.
just remember
Basically,
us by
visually
the-
accessible.
Sorry?
Can you just remember us by the steps that we can make in order to be safe in the streets, not
As a group or as by yourself?
no, as an individual riding. For example, I have a bike and ride it. What the safe?
Well, first of all, you need to make sure, as our brother told you here, that you need to make sure you're at least wearing a helmet, gloves, and a jacket. Second of all, you, like I said, don't challenge cars. If the cars try to break you, if they try to race you, if they try to take photos, your best action, if you're totally stuck, is to stop. Because,
Stay
again,
calm.
you're on two wheels. They're on four. So, and just be vigilant, be careful, be courteous.
Yeah, it is also a responsibility.
It is.
in
On,
that.
on the same point, like you said, two wheels. I remember I was like, when we were at the Harley dealership, I saw a three-wheeled bike behind. And I remember you passed a comment which I cannot recall. Could you please?
Well, I said that that's the trike, by the way, that he also mentioned as part of the bikes. But the trikes are nice, they're beautiful bikes, and the difference is the concept. When you're on a motorcycle, you lean to turn.
True.
With these, you can't lean, so if you're speeding, you have to slow down, otherwise you could flip, just like riding any of the quads or the three-wheelers.
I'm sorry to break this conversation. It's really interesting. But now we have a report, so stay tuned, don't go anywhere. We'll be back.
So far, we've been talking about the basics of the motorcycle, the parts, and the safety gear and the accessories of them. But later on, we want to talk more deeply into the matter. But first, we want to introduce you, Mr. Rad.
I'm fine, pretty good, thank you.
Give us a little introduction about yourself.
Well, I handle the public relation of the chapter, where I handle the media and I handle, I would say, members' relations with the chapter and with the dealer.
That sounds like a lot of work.
Definitely. Talking about members, I mean, definitely you must have different phases and different, groups of members age-wise. So, I mean, what kind of, what characteristic, what classification do you have for them?
Well, I can tell you that we had 3 generations, if I'm correct. Correct me if I'm wrong. The first generation, that's when the chapter and the dealer started. That's around 2004. That's where the dealer started their business. And we have, so I would say 3 generations. The first generations, which Marwan is part of, he's one of the first generations. I would consider myself the second generation. And the third generation would be the youngsters. Right now we have really good amount of youngsters who are really interested in Harley-Davidson. Especially we're talking about 25 years old age up to 30 maximum. That's about it.
Well, talking about different generations and mashallah, looking at all the variety of bikes that you have, of course, different generations have different tastes in bikes. So could you say something about like what would a first generation person drive comparing to a third generation person? And I'm sorry, I don't want to forget the last generation.
Okay, well, I don't want to sound too old and make my one older than me. But the thing is, it varies honestly, because I mean, a 40 years old or a 50-year-old rider would really also prefer riding a speed bike, or let's say a V-Rod. But it depends on the taste, depends on what he's really into. But generally speaking, I would say the first generation would prefer the touring, where they want to go for long rides. They're not into city rides or they're not into show rides. I would say the bike rides. The second generation, they're lost between the first and the second. This first and the third, I'm sorry. The third one would really, they're looking for the speed, V-rods, muscle. Even I would say the CVOs right now, they come with 1.3 engines, 110 engines. Yeah, so they're really big engines. So they're looking at touring at the same time, but with the muscle.
Every single second that you've been talking, you're getting more excited about bikes.
Welcome back everybody from this lovely report by Salman and Hussam and Mansour also. They was made with they have Mr. Right there in the showroom in order to show them the bikes and everything, but unfortunately he can't make it today.
So
yeah,
we heard that he pulled a tooth out. He had a little bit of a mini surgery. We wish him all the best and a quick recovery. In case you're watching this,
Yeah, I hope you get well
all the
soon.
best. Hope you get well soon.
Yeah. So talking about the report, I think we talked about the customization here more. I believe so.
We talked about the generations,
Oh, yeah.
the different
Sorry, yeah,
generations
about
of
that.
bike riders. Now, as a person who, of course, anticipates being the 4th generation, I'd have to ask, sometimes you'd see people who buy the same bikes. I mean, someone would buy a V-Rod, another person would buy the same V-Rod with the same specifications. But later on, like about 4 months later, 5 months, maybe even a year later, when you meet them and you talk to them, they have different perceptions of the bike. It's as if they own two completely different bikes. Could you tell me a little bit about, I mean, if there's some kind of philosophy behind it?
Okay.
Because they themselves told me that, no, our bikes are different.
Okay, when you purchase your bike at the beginning, both of them are the same. But later on, there is a customization. The customization will talk about your personality. So it is part of your taste, your personality in the customization. That's what will give you the difference between the two different bikes. Even the performance. Some of them, they care more about performance. Some of the others know about the chroming and all the other parts. So this is mainly different.
Talk about the perspectives of different persons, and I wanted to say what Salman said as an example. Like you said, two persons choose the same bike after a few months, but other than how they view the bike, I wanted to ask about why do they find them a guy can ride the bike perfectly and is capable of handling it so well, and you can find the other one not still learning on it. I mean, but they both have the same time limit. Why is that a huge difference?
Well, it's just like anything. You've got. It depends on you and how much you know how. For example, I rode my first bike right away. I didn't have a problem. It was built in as I've learned what to do mechanically. But you would find, you're right, others that would ride for a long time and still be always scared and cautious. And but that's really a person thing. It's more of a character and how he does things.
So it's according how he can understand, or how can he be available with his bike and show his personality or customer.
Right. I mean, every new member that comes in gets trained. I mean, we have also a person dedicated at the dealership that takes all new riders every week. Not with our group, because they will be anxious and they will have an issue when they're riding with us, and they're the only ones that don't know how to ride. So they ride with people, they're all beginners, and the person that takes them is very capable, and so he takes them on, he teaches them, and when they feel comfortable, they start coming and enjoying all the rides with us.
Every person is, of course, different.
Absolutely.
So basically, it's like a school classroom example.
Yeah,
Putting
the
the smartest kid in
individually.
class and me. The difference between us two. So pretty much on the same lines. I mean, each person copes differently. Some people get the hang of it quicker. They have the feel for it.
Yes, exactly. And
Yeah.
so it depends on the person.
Yeah, I guess so, because every person is different. You can't find the same guy, same perspective of the same person. Individually, every person has his own technique, his own way of understanding. So I think we've covered up the
Pretty
main
much a lot.
points.
We can talk a little bit more about customization when it comes down. I mean, one's having
and you
accessories.
mentioned the chroming. What other accessories are there? Sorry about that.
No problem, no problem. Go ahead.
Yeah.
It was your question to begin with.
Actually, you could put parts more than the value of the bike. There is many what they call different parts. There is many companies that they do the same part in different way. So
could you give us an example of a part which might be expensive than a bike? Because if
no, not the part is more expensive than a bike, but the total part that you put is more than the bike price.
I see. Well, so could you give us an example of what a person
Of the exhausts, maybe. The exhaust, there is many companies that they do it, and you have very different variety of models, and even they take care about the sound, the exhaust sound.
Yeah, and actually, I see many people caring so much about that alone. I'm having it's like a context. I'm having the
loudest sound.
The loudest.
It's not about the loudest. It's about the tone of the.
But I don't know why some people are crazy about them.
It's patented, by the way.
Yeah,
it is copyrighted
read
for
about
Harley-Davidson, so nobody can do the same sound. But honestly, just as a thing for everybody to know, the pipes are designed to do this loud noise to save lives.
Yes.
And that's simply
people would know
because
they're
when you're alone and there's no loud pipe, nobody sees you. Trust me. I've tried
So
that.
to get these loud pipes, the loud sounds, is just to get noticed.
So yeah, the cars would see you. They would always notice
look
that
for
you're
you.
coming. They will look for you, exactly.
Okay, just have a question. If, like, you know, I want to buy a new bike, I want to buy a bike, what the first thing that I should look to in a bike?
Well, I don't think you should look for anything specific. I think, like I tell everybody I know as an advice, go there, go every day, look at the bikes, ask questions. At the end, you will find a bike that you will go home and think about every day until you come back and say, this is my
Sticks
bike.
in your
He's
mind.
calling me.
Okay, I'm sorry to break this again,
No problem.
but now we have a report, so stay tuned and don't go anywhere.
Get out on the highway, looking for adventure, and whatever comes my way.
What kinds of bikes are there? Like you have certain kinds of bikes, like the road kinds, the off-road, and those types. What kinds do you? Because obviously I'm not familiar with the bikes so much. I love them, of course, and love your work, your products, but still I'm not pretty much professional in it. So can you tell us some of them?
Well, there are three types. You have the touring, and that is what Raed was talking about as far as going on trips and long rides, and they're bigger bikes, heavier, got bigger tanks, more bags to put your stuff on. Then you've got the speed bikes, and those are different, either Harley-Davidsons or Suzuki's, Yamahas, and all those other ones. Now for the Harleys, they are like the V-Rods and the Muscles and all those. The third type would be the off-road, and those are non-Harley, but they are like the Suzuki's, the BMWs, the Yamahas, that go off on dirt roads.
So I'm walking around and taking a look at a couple of bikes, and I see something. Me, myself, I'm a beginner. I've never personally owned a bike. So if there were someone who was interested in bikes, and, you know, like you said, third generation, probably a fourth one will show up sometime soon as well. So for a beginner, what kind of a bike would you recommend? I mean,
Here's the good thing. If you come in here and you are interested, first of all, I do tell everyone that the bike will choose you. You will not choose the bike. You will be walking around, and one day you're going to go home and say, I can't get this bike off my head. Second is the dealer here will not let you go with the bike without having a license and the registration and plate. On top of that, they offer you free training, and you will not take the bike until you're comfortable. You go out with their trainer, and that trainer also has organized with us, the Hog Group, to do rides weekly for all those beginners. So he'll always coach them and help them to gain confidence.
well, I guess that means that if there's any beginner out there, they can come down here, train themselves, and as he's, you know, told us about the license, the registration, being totally confirmed that you're legal to drive, legally able to drive, and the bike will definitely choose you.
Welcome back everyone from this lovely report that was made by Mansour, Hussam and Salman again, but unfortunately I wasn't there because I was sick and asleep. Anyway.
Snooze away, bro.
Yeah, okay. You try. Anyway, they were talking about how to choose the bike, and that the bike choose you as they talked about. So let's just get in this more with detail.
Talking
And I think
about-
Salman has a question about
Yeah.
that.
Talking about the same point, according to the report, I mean, recapping a little bit, usually, like you said, the bike chooses you. Do you find cases of a person who comes into your dealership and he sees a bike like a V-Rod, which is a sports bike, I mean, it's a fast bike, and he's like, I want this bike because it looks awesome. He buys it, But because it might not be the bike for him, like you said, the bike chooses you, of course he's going to struggle. And sooner or later he will have to sell it. Until he might buy another bike which suits him. So...
Okay, that is true in a way, and I know people that, for example, the concept always comes in is I'll buy the small bike, train on it, and then I'll buy the bigger bike. The advice that was given to me, the first bike I bought was, don't do that. Buy the bike you want and train on it.
Right.
One thing that everybody should know, that if I'm riding for 20 years now and I just bought a new bike, I start from scratch. It is not the same. Every bike is different. And it doesn't mean if I'm an expert on this bike, that means if I ride this, I ride it good. So the struggle will happen in any case. That's why we always tell people, just choose the bike you want, the bike you think is the right bike for you, and then if you're trained on it, the only, suffering, if you want to call it that, is like the friend of mine that bought a Sportster, which is the smallest, and he's a tall guy, so I guess his knees are right next to his ears when he sits there, and that's an exaggeration, but that's what he's struggling with. The bike, he loves the bike. But now he's at a point where he's, okay, looking at selling the bike and paying the difference and buying a bigger bike.
But sometimes, you people being at the dealership, you can, sometimes when a customer walks in, from your personal experience of, like you said, whether you're 20, you've been driving for 20 years or 30 or whatnot, you might have a little bit of a say. If someone comes into your store, you might know what bike might suit him. So personally, what bike would suit me?
Yeah, do you feel that kind of vibe?
That's my question.
That kind of vibe when a person he walks in and you think, your kind of bike is this one.
Buddy Hussam, we're focusing on me.
It's not like that.
I think it's all based on personality or how he treats it.
No, it's. I'll tell you another example. Me, when I came in, I really wanted to buy a smaller bike because my size is a little smaller, and I ended up buying the biggest bike on Harley-Davidson, and I did not even think I'm going to be able to move it, and it's the most I can maneuver and actually work with very well. So,
Great.
So it really depends. It's a training.
Depends on the
Practice
person,
makes perfect.
It's not about the personality, what you'll do with it.
Not the personality, about the person himself. What does he feel?
It's so a lot of our colleagues, they start with a V-Road because, as you say, it's awesome and everything. Later on, they find that, okay, the V-Road is not good for a long ride because it will give you about 100 kilos only, kilometer a minute. Then you need something that will give you more distance so you could go and enjoy the long rides with the group.
He's talking about gas, 100, it's the tank itself.
As a destination, because the Sportster and the Vero, they could go with a full tank up to 100. Others, they could go to 200, 300 kilos for filling gas again. So it's more enjoyable and long rides. So if you are on a Sportster or a V-Road, they are good for the city for short rides. But later on, if you want to move to long rides for traveling with your bike, you need a bigger bike.
Okay. Are there any last words?
Yeah, any advice for the viewers out there?
Yeah.
Drive safely, or ride safely.
But back to my previous question,
watch
what bike would suit
bikes.
me?
What bike would suit you?
In your
I
personal...
think, again, just like I said, you need to go there. And
Buy a
just look
V-Rod.
every now and then. Keep looking. No, don't buy it.
What I
Look at it,
them, just
and you will find one. I
yourself.
guess the V-Rod's been calling you, hasn't it?
It definitely has. I went into the dealership. I saw
And I
this
remember
V-Rod,
then the
I
dealership,
said,
we
"Yeah,
went
I don't
crazy
know."
for them.
Take the training and take a test drive.
Ladies and gentlemen, Salman Qureshi is coming with a bike.
Okay, guys. I think we'll continue after the show because unfortunately we have brought to the end. And I wish that you enjoyed this show as I enjoyed it, and I was very excited to enter this because I'm like crazy about the bikes. I love it very much. So see you next time.